There was one that somehow I don't remember which speech, but as I saw actually.
I was surprised.
I've got that.
All right, then we'll move to part 3 of the meeting, third part, and this is where we, the NRC staff is asking for comments on anything related to what we've talked about tonight. So far, only 3 people have signed up. Does anyone else does anyone else want to speak that has not filled out a yellow card yet? All right, then, in the order in which I have the cards, Gretel, you're first, and then Don, you're next. And I'd ask you to please limit your comment to 5 minutes until we cycle through all 3 of you. And then if we need more, you can go a second time. All right?
With Bellefonte Efficiency and Sustainability Team, Mothers Against Tennessee Tennessee River Radiation. Excuse me, I'm just going to lower that. Can you hear that all right? Thank you. Okay. That's Best Matter, and we are a local chapter in the Tennessee Valley of the Blue Ridge Environmental Defense League. Bro. I got a little irritated this morning, and it's because I was having such a hard time over a 3-day period that I had kind of blocked out for myself to focus on this report because I'm a working person and it's difficult to find the time to review these long documents. But I was kind of familiar with the earlier ones because I've been reviewing them. But I kept asking people, do you know how to find the new one? And people said, oh, what new one? And I was like, there's got to be a new one because they're calling it the DSEIS instead of the SEIS. And so I spent hours online, and I am internet savvy. But something that is a recurring problem with the NRC website is the Atom search engine. And anyone who does research and has used the Atom search engine knows that it appears to be designed to divert you from the subject you are trying to research. You rarely find the document that you are searching in the list of results for your search. Even if you put the exact title and the exact email number, it gives you everything else before that so that you can go through maybe 10 pages of the list trying to find the document, and you may or may not find it. Who has time to do that? Well, it's irritating, and it appears to be deliberate because it is ongoing for year after year after year. And we've got good search engines in this world now, and I just cannot see an excuse for it. So I ask you to please address that issue and take that to the commissioners and take that, reconsider the IT people that are doing your search engine and the work with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission website. Okay, that said, it was difficult. I finally found it this morning, but I do not have enough time to address the issues in it. I did not have enough time to study it, to give it the effort it deserves, because a considerable amount of effort went into creating it. And I'd like to give it the time. So I detailed in my written comments in detail why it was frustrating and what went wrong and all of that. But I think it's something that you should be proud of, that the NRC and the EPA and TVA should all be saying, we're reconsidering all this, we're looking at this, we're going deeply into this, we want to keep you safe. And I'm not getting that. It's a detailed report, it's a long report, but there are a lot of issues that are not being addressed. And so I'm going to try and address some of them in the short amount of time I've had to prepare this. Okay. I want to say that formally, I want to request, because of the difficulty in finding this article, even by someone who is used to searching online regularly, that I want to request that there would be an extension for the public comment period. I want to make a formal request for that, and that I want to request that there be no further meetings of the Petitioner Review Board or any other entity responsible for reviewing the appropriateness of extending the Sequoyah nuclear plant operating licenses for another 20 years, which is 50% beyond the 2 reactors' design basis lifespan. That said, I will proceed to some new issues, as well as reiterating the issues previously submitted for which we have received no response. But I was happy to hear when I got here that David in fact responded to them in this document, which I have not been able to study yet. Okay. And a regular occurrence, something new that's happened this year, was that the Sequoyah annual effluent submission reports that usually come out in April and May every year for every nuclear power plant. The ones this year were not posted on the NRC website until September 11th. So needless to say, I had very little time to work on those as well. And I wrote the NRC about it. So it made me wonder, why on earth would that be the case? There were 1,571 curies of liquid releases this year, and there were 145 batch releases on 145 days in our environment, and that was of the liquid and 142 of gas. But what I found, and I do need to take just a minute to say what I found with this, is that for 7 months we had beyond the limit releases of tritium in our water. Liquid releases were beyond the extremely high 20 picocuries per liter limit that is the law. So those were kind of buried down at the bottom of the page. They were not in sequence. Those should have been at the top up here, and they were down here. I'm just saying, it's looking suspicious, and these are the figures. You can read them yourself and see what it says, and that is beyond the design basis. So that is a concern, and it concerns me. Is somebody burying information? What's going on at NRC? Are y'all really protecting us? No matter what somebody tells you to do at the NRC, y'all are working for the United States citizens to keep us healthy and safe. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Greta. Don Safer, you're next.
Again, Don Safer, and I think you have my information. Would you like me to repeat normally? Thanks for this opportunity. It feels frustrating because we did this about a year ago, and yes, I saw my name in the comments being addressed, but the issues don't really ever seem to be addressed to my satisfaction. Just to put this in perspective, the Fukushima accident is going to take 30 to 40 years to clean up. Somewhere around 150,000 people were forced to evacuate from their homes. Some of them will never, most of them in fact, will never be able to return. Just recently, a lot of health issues with the children in Japan have been showing up. Certainly a lot of thyroid issues, which was the case at Chernobyl, but this is serious business, and the fact is that a lot of the repercussions and realities around Fukushima are the subject of a pervasive cover-up. And even scientists who study this, I just saw a web-based press release of a man, I don't have his name, but it was sent out today, a scientist who is saying that the effects of that Fukushima accident and all that radiation that was released and is continuing to be released are much, much greater than the news media and the governments are letting us know. And I wish I could say that I had more confidence in our government about nuclear issues, but the fact is that the U.S. government is just as secretive and is keeping just as much from us about the dangers of nuclear technologies, whether it's depleted uranium in weapons and the problems with soldiers coming back, or the problems with radioactive waste, whether it's low-level waste that is being created by these power plants on a daily basis, and some 50 million pounds of it comes to Tennessee processors and is being incinerated and melted and all manner of shredded to just for volume reduction, and a lot of worker exposure and a certain amount of public exposure is happening. And then this high-level waste. We need to remember at the heart of this process is the fissioning of uranium and plutonium, and that fissioning process creates isotopes that were unknown really to the planet until we started doing it. And the cesium-137 that is, a great majority of the radiation in these fuel rods, it'll be radioactive for 300 years, and it gets into our food, it gets into our bodies, it wreaks havoc in our bodies. And it's always being measured by the authorities as an external source, but once it gets into your body, it's a different situation. So, forgive me for going off topic, but in terms of the scoping, but I just feel passionately that this is such a mistake to continue creating this radioactive waste. And to that, I think the biggest issue is renewable energy and the growth of renewable energy. When these reactors were first approved and designed, basically designed in the 1960s, and by the way, it's a design called the ice condenser design. 3 million pounds of chipped ice is hanging around the reactor core, and so the containment is thinner. So there are a lot of studies, including this book, Tritium on Ice, that you can get, that indicate, and these were done by the U.S. government, New Reg, what was it, 1150 or something, that indicate these ice condenser designs are the most likely to rupture in the event of a loss of coolant accident. So these things are not robust, not near as robust as what 3 Mile Island is, that design that did hold in the event of a bad accident. But speaking to this draft supplemental environmental impact statement and the renewables, and I know in your document you say that section 2.0, that it's not your job necessarily to deny an application but you have to consider the potential alternatives and determine whether the environmental impacts of license renewal are so great that preserving the option of license renewal would be unreasonable. And that just brings up the convoluted logic that is going on in the whole ball of wax. I mean, all of the NRC's machinations to present the illusion of safety of this technology in the thick document, there are so many exclusions, and well, we can't consider this, and we can't consider the original design, and so just to, and you can tell me when my 5 minutes is up. We don't have a clock here.
It's up now.
Okay, well, I'd like to come back.
Okay. Well, let's give Gary Morgan a chance to speak. And then if we need to, Gretel and Don, we'll give you a second chance.
I almost feel like I'm up here in the dark. Well, I am Gary Morgan. I am the director of the Community Radiation Monitoring Project for Best Matter. And I want to talk a little bit about this generic environmental impact statement for licenses. The two subjects which I'm going to discuss is about radionuclides released to groundwater, and also waste management pollution prevention, which is highlighted in 3.13, and also 3.11, the human health aspects of that. I want to talk about the radionuclides released to groundwater. My colleague, Ms. Johnson, previously mentioned that. On 4-20, in this statement, it states, groundwater contaminated as tritium is not close to the site boundary and has been detected and has not been detected off-site at SQN. Neither the soil, structural field, nor the underlying Conosuga group is considered to be an aquifer or a source of water. However, as Ms. Johnson mentioned, in the wells, and I believe those wells are located south and southwest of the nuclear power block, there was tritium exceeding 20,000 picocuries per liter in those wells. Now, whether those wells are in close proximity to an aquifer, of course, is not outlined specifically in this environmental impact statement, and brings to question exactly the specific location of those wells and how close they are to all underground aquifers, including the Tennessee River and any tributaries of the Tennessee River. This is a problem. Even though it is on site and the wells are not off site, you're not saying anywhere in the data that I have reviewed and seen that it is not possible for that tritium to leak into a groundwater supply which citizens may utilize. That's that. So I believe that is a deficiency of this impact statement. The second area concerns waste. The waste that is stored at Sequoyah, the period it's going to be stored, which is, for our purposes in here, all of us, basically infinity. We'll be long gone, the waste will still be there. So what are we going to do with this new ruling that has been released? What are we going to do with all the waste that's over there? For that matter, all the waste. But we're interested in Sequoyah. There is an answer for that. We believe there's an answer. The environmental community believes there's an answer, and there's a lot of learned people that believe there's an answer to that. And I actually even believe the NRC, maybe even TVA believe there's an answer to this waste storage problem, and that'll be Hoss. Now, I'm not talking about Hoss Cartwright, I'm talking about hardened on-site storage. Now, how you store your waste is going to affect the human environment as well as the biota, the flora and fauna. Lord forbid there be a nuclear accident where a fuel pool catches on fire that is overfilled with waste, then we have a real problem, because as you know, if the fuel pool fire, you're going to have a lot of waste, a lot of radioactivity released into the environment, and that can be partially prevented by moving the waste into hardened storage canisters, and then you must secure that waste in the hardened secure storage canisters properly. And I don't see where that's addressed in here. Now, I realize you got a waste confidence ruling, and that hopefully it'll be addressed in the future, but we need to be thinking about this future right here and now, because this is going to affect us, our children, and our grandchildren. And we don't want to have an accident, tornado come through. Of course, these the hardened canisters are good to go for the tornadoes. Even the hardened canisters at Fukushima storing the waste, they didn't get moved by the tidal wave. Hopefully, if a dam breaks upstream, canisters sitting out on the pad, either at Watts Bar or Sequoyah, will not be moved by that. But to ensure security and safety, they need to be moved into a hardened site, a bunker type facility, either a vertical placement of the canisters in or a horizontal placement of the canisters in a berm covered so that it cannot be attacked by outside sources or be threatened by inclement weather. And basically, I've outlined all this concerns in the document, and I'll give this to the court reporter now if that's appropriate. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Gary. We've heard from three people. Does anyone else want to make a comment so we can add you to the